It's online. I think it's online. You got the guide? I thought, did Geshe Michael translate the whole guide? No, he translated the 9th chapter, didn't he? And it was just the 9th chapter.
But we have a preferred version. Yeah, I can't remember. I've got a copy of it. I'll show you. That's what he said. Use this version.
Oh, he has one that he prefers. So there you go.
Okay, well, you
But
let
if
me
you-
know.
Yeah, I'll get it tomorrow.
If you can read his 9th chapter, Geshe Michael translated the 9th chapter of the guide because it's a chapter on wisdom, and it's online. You can download it from Worldview, like ACI site. It's a very beautiful, beautiful chapter. I really encourage you to download it. Yeah, the final chapter.
Just so you know, in the break, I downloaded part 3 of the Abhidhamma Kosha. Just imagine the Tibetans doing that. It's in here.
Nice, right? Yeah, pretty cool.
Where do we live?
Right. Okay, where were we? We did Titsom. Well, we're on Titsom, doubt. It's lazy doubt. It's being lazy. And it basically means not deciding. You know, well, I'm not sure about this idea. I can't quite decide. I can't quite get clear in my mind whether I should do it or not. Is it a good idea? Isn't it a good idea? So it's this kind of not taking the time to definitively figure something out, come to a conclusion, and commit to it. Right? And very often we say, you know, I can't quite figure it out. I'm not really sure. But usually what the bottom line is we don't feel like it, and therefore we don't want to figure it out. We don't really want to do it, and therefore we don't want to figure it out. We don't want to come to a clear conclusion because we just don't want to do it. You know, there's like in the back of our mind, there's this like sneaking suspicion that I probably decide that I should do it, but I really don't want to. So I'm just not going to really look at it too closely and make any clear decisions about it, right? So that's lazy doubt. You just don't fully accept and pursue a teaching or practice because you haven't gotten clear and resolved yourself that it's the thing to do and you're going to really do it and go for it. And this is not a going for it thing. You know, it's like, oh, I'm just going to wallow about. I mean, I'm guilty. I openly confess. You know, I'm just going to, I got that teaching and I understand that. And I think I know I should probably do it, but I'm not really resolved that I'm going to do it, right? Not really gung-ho about it and fully committed to it, right? Maybe other people, they're just like, you know what? I swear I'm going to meditate 15 minutes a day and never miss a day. And then they don't, year after year after year. You know, because they don't have this lazy doubt. They're not, like, maybe meditation works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I should meditate, maybe I shouldn't, right? Maybe I should keep a book, maybe I shouldn't. You know, a spiritual journal, right? 6 times a day book. I don't know, should I do that? I'm not sure. I mean, if we were sure, we'd do it, right? Anywho, so it's just not making the effort to clarify because then we have to act. So it's not logical to do a spiritual practice sometimes because we feel like it, and not do it other times because we don't feel like it. I mean, it's either true and it holds that we should do it, or it's not true and it doesn't hold that we should do it. Yeah.
Well, in the teaching about first experience of direct perception of emptiness, in the aftermath of that experience, they say that one of the artifacts of having had a true first direct perception of emptiness is certainty.
Yeah.
Certainty of a number of things, including the truth of the Dharma, the advent of our own future enlightenment, and other stuff. So if certainty is really only available for the first time subsequent to that direct perception, then everything up until then is a status where we are consigned to uncertainty and all of the consequent bullshitting around that you're describing, which is everybody's life all the time. We're not certain. Why should we pretend or preach to ourselves that we ought to be, that we can be when we can't be?
Well, that's why it's one of the top 6 mental afflictions, right?
But it's not an affliction at all. It's an accurate statement of reality from the perspective of somebody who has not seen a direct perception of emptiness. It's really the only truthful statement we can make of our condition, whether it's afflicted or not.
Yeah. I mean, look, a good Buddhist is supposed to check things out, right? If you're a good Buddhist, right? I mean, the Buddha said, you have a responsibility. I'm laying on you this trip and this commitment that you have to check everything out and you have to evaluate everything, and you can't just accept what somebody says because they came along into town in the right outfit and they're old and have gray hair and their bio says they're really super lama. You know, just because somebody's bio says they're super lama and they look the part doesn't mean you're going to just go in and accept whatever they say. Buddha says you have to check it out and don't accept anything on faith without checking it out. It has to be internally consistent, has to be congruent with your experience, has to meet, it has to meet all the criteria, right? So it's true that we have to check everything out, and we should doubt everything. But somewhere along the way, pick any one thing, right? Like, I believe in karma or I don't, okay? If one is a Buddhist, somewhere in one's spiritual career, whether it's on day 1 or day 1,000, somewhere along the way, it's time to say, I'm going to believe in karma or I'm not going to believe in karma. Not, maybe I do and maybe I don't. Because how can you really practice and apply yourself to the path if you're not going to really go for it and believe in it? It's like saying, listen, I'll spend 10 years sort of believing this stuff, and 10 years sort of not believing this stuff. And that's what they're saying here. They're saying that's an affliction. They're saying, look, if you believe in karma and emptiness, then accept it and live that way. And if you don't believe in karma and emptiness, that's your prerogative. And your Buddha says, check it out and decide. And then Maitreya says, look, if you don't buy something, don't judge it, don't disrespect it, put it on the shelf and come back to it. No problem. So absolutely no problem with putting something on the shelf and saying, I'm not sure. But there are things that we can. If every single thing that we meet along the way is like, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, like over and over and over again for 5 years, 10 years, well then what the hell are we doing,
Well, yeah, but that's really the only accurate statement we can make.
Well,
you can tell me about your belief, but then, you're saying that what is available to the faithful is a belief that has the same quality of certainty, which in the next teaching you're saying is available only to the Arya, the one who's seen the direct perception.
No, remember this is lazy doubt. Okay.
What is my faith based on? If I haven't had a direct perception of emptiness, and why is that reliable?
Well, for me, just my personal opinion, right? If one is going to do something, anything, like decide they like surfing, you decide they're going to become a surfer, right? You go out to the beach, you go for a swim, you see if you like swimming, you decide, I like swimming, right? I can swim, I can be a good swimmer, I like swimming, I'll swim. Let me get on a board and learn how to use a board, and I'll, okay, I like being on a board, and I like practice a little and get used to it and learn to stand up and, catch some waves and decide I like surfing. Okay, I've done this, I've tried it, I decided it works for me, I decided it's consistent with what I want to do, and I like it, and I want to do it. So one is never going to get to be a master surfer by saying, I like surfing and I want to be a surfer, but I'm only going to go out and catch a wave once every month or once every 3 months or something, but I want to be a master surfer, something like that, right? So it's like that. It's just this kind of, like, don't be a lazy surfer if you're going to be a surfer, That's really what it is. It's like, if you want to be a Buddhist and you decide you're a Buddhist and you decide this path is for you, don't be lazy, Just evaluate things to the best of your ability, make decisions to the best of your ability, and then go for it. Once you've made a decision, try to make a decision, If you can make a decision and go for it. If you can't make a decision, no problem. But surely somewhere along the way, it's a graduated path. It goes back to what we've spoken about before. You start at the beginning of the graduated path, and you try it. And you take the first step and you see if it resonates and if it works. And you take the second step and you see if it resonates and you see if it works. And then, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And somewhere along the way you go, yeah, I think this is working. I feel like this is working, so I'm going to buy in. Or it's not working and I'm not going to buy in. That's, But to just keep walking down a path and never have buy-in, there's a kind of laziness to that, is what they're saying. And that's an affliction. I know, look, I don't mean to be split hairs with it too much, but their point here is just make efforts, make decisions, and go for it. And don't be lazy. At whatever level you're comfortable with, and at whatever level you can, and put whatever you're going to put on the shelf, and whatever you can decide about. And don't be in some nebulous, undecided zone which keeps us stalled out, never going anywhere. So like that,
So would it be fair to say that for the deeply hidden truths, we could take emptiness, or you could take even karma. And you could say, okay, since we can't know those directly until we've become enlightened, then we can accept that those are things we will be ignorant of. We can still act on faith as if they're true if we decide we see other people are telling us they're true, who have achieved some sort of understanding of that we don't have, and we still think they're people who are living their lives the way we'd like to live, and we trust them, we could still make a move, right?
Well, there are a lot of ways to get buy-in. You know, I mean, some people will buy in based upon seeing a great teacher and going like, "Oh my God, they're so amazing, and they're so powerful, and they're so beautiful, and they're so realized, and they're so spectacular that I'm like totally inspired. And I'm going to do this thing that they're doing because like they sold me from their personal example, and I'm totally bought in just because of that." You know, some people are like into the scriptural thing. Like, you know, if you're in the monastery and you're a monk, it's like the scripture says it, it's the law. You buy it. You got buy-in, end of story. You know, Buddha said it, therefore there's buy-in, you know? I mean, everybody's different, but you find your buy-in however you find it, you know?
But if we truly can't understand something because it's deeply hidden and we haven't realized it yet, that's not really lazy ignorance. That's
No,
just,
that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, the
It's
Buddha...
not part of
no,
this discussion.
no, I mean, Maitreya says, put it on the shelf. If you don't, you know, if it doesn't work for you, put it on the shelf and, you know, come back to it later, right? Okay, please say Tawa.
Tawa.
Number 6. Tawa is wrong view. And there are 5 flavors of wrong worldview, which are all big-time mental afflictions. So we're going to talk about 5 different wrong worldviews, all of which are significant mental afflictions. Okay? 5 primary wrong worldviews. So we have 5 mental afflictions. The first 5 are mental afflictions, and then these next 5 are wrong worldviews. So you got 10, really, 10 different mental afflictions, you could say, if you look at it that way. Okay, so the first one, jikta. Please say jikta.
Jikta.
Jik means destroy. Ta is view. It's translated as perishable view. This is the nastiest one of all, the worst one of all. And it has 2 meanings. The first is, sooner or later we're going to destroy this view. This view will perish. This wrong view will perish at some point is one meaning. And basically this focuses upon something which will fall apart or be destroyed. Me or mine. Me and mine. Me, I'm John, right? Mine, meaning my stuff, right? Me, like I'm John, I got my arms, I got my legs, I got my hair, more or less, you know. Me, like what makes up me, right? Focus upon the stuff that makes me up as a being. My mind, my body, right? So I focus upon that, or I focus upon my stuff, my house, my car, my clothes, you know, whatever it is, my shoes. So focuses upon those things in a self-existent way, right? I'm self-existent and my stuff is self-existent, right? And because of that, we engage in non-virtues and collect negative karma. Because I think I'm self-existent, because I think my stuff is self-existent, I collect masses of negative karma. Okay? If I didn't have this wrong view, I wouldn't have any mental afflictions or collect any negative karma. Okay? Because I see things as self-existent, I'm willing to fight to get them, or to get rid of them, or to do wrong things, you know, to get them or get rid of them. Do negativities to get them or get rid of them, right? So, okay, so, yeah. This is the last mental affliction that one gets rid of before retaining nirvana. This jikta, this view, is the last wrong view that one loses before attaining nirvana. So if one is on the Mahayana path, when you reach the 8th Bodhisattva boon, the 8th Bodhisattva level, at the end of the 8th Bodhisattva level, you lose this wrong view. And so without this
Why?
wrong...
Why?
Why do you lose it?
What is the last one?
The last one.
What is the last mental affliction?
Why is it the last one? Because it is seeing myself as self-existent. How to say it?
It's the root.
It's the thing, how to say this? Seeing outer things, right, as being self-existent. It's a little bit, it's easier than seeing, not seeing outer things as self-existent is one thing. not seeing my very existence as being self-existent, and not grasping to that, not holding to that, not believing that, not perceiving that. This is a different level, I suppose you could say. So, like, can I really think and perceive that, excuse me, bless you, that I'm not John, right? And that my, apartment, my clothes are not mine and important to my life and meaningful, right? These are the things we. This is my opinion.
When you grasp reality like nothing exists, you are aware at the same time. There's the same thing for you. Right?
Say it again. Sorry.
They are the same. At the same time that you grasp that from the things outside of you, you do the same for you. Like you realize that you are not your body, you are not your. No?
When you perceive emptiness, it's true. Yeah, when you perceive emptiness, you're perceiving emptiness, and it's not. It's just a raw perception. I don't have a scriptural answer for you or a definitive answer. I can just give you my thought process, which would simply be that we've had, as a being, we've had self-existent view from beginningless time, and the seeds for self-existent view are the last thing to go. My self-existent view of me as a being is somehow, it seems to me, more subtle and more deeply attached to me than anything else. So that's just how I think about it. I don't know if it's accurate, but just you can ponder it, contemplate it. Yeah, I don't know the definitive answer, but it makes sense to me, and it feels right to me to just say, the thing I care about the most is me and my stuff, right? And so the final ending of the view of me as me, right, and my stuff as my stuff will be the last thing to go. So that's just how I think about it. I don't know if it's true. But good question and good to contemplate. Okay, so please say Tarta.
Tarta.
This is an extreme view, holding an extreme view. And what's the middle way?
Not having things as nihilism, between nihilism and self-existence.
Yeah, middle way is going between two extreme views. It's these two extreme views, okay, which are things exist from their own side, self-existently, or nothing exists, right, at all. So this is referring to that extreme view. Holding things are either non-existent or that they never change. They're self-existent, right? So, and we think this way all the time. We think things exist the way they appear to exist, from their own side, definitively. And then the idea that nothing exists at all is, we don't walk around feeling like, oh, nothing exists at all. It's not a natural thing that would just pop into one's head. It's something which is more of a philosophical view, which is learned. You read too much, German philosophy, or, you see some bad Buddhist teachings or something, and you walk around going like, oh, nothing matters, nothing exists, whatever, right? So, anyway, the conclusion and implication of this is that if things don't exist the way I see them, then they don't exist at all. If things aren't self-existent, then they don't exist at all, right? But what this is saying is if things existed the way you think normally, then they could never change.
Excuse me, sorry,
yeah. If things existed as you think they do, self-existently, they would never change. A self-existent thing, which is a grape from its own side. This has the identity of a grape, and it is a grape, and the grapeness is coming from it. It could never change if it were a grape. If grapeness was here, it could never be anything but a grape. It couldn't be a raisin, it couldn't be decomposed dust or whatever. It would never change. Okay, please say Lokta.
Lokta.
This is wrong views. This is wrong view in the sense of actively believing in a wrong view. You think about it, you contemplate it, you mull it over, ponder it, and you just decide, you know what? I've thought about it. I have come to a firm conclusion that there is no such thing as karma or past or future lives or some other something like that, right? So, and it's not just sort of having a thought process. You know, it's not just having a conversation with yourself. It's thinking about it, deciding, and holding the view in a sustained way. You know, no problem to wonder and doubt and, you know, evaluate and debate. You know, no problem. That's not bhakta. Okay, please say tawa, chok, zin. So this is having the attitude that your wrong views are best. Tawa is worldview, chok is best, and zin means to believe or to grasp. Grasping or believing that your wrong views are the best. Like, I know how things work and I'm right. I mean, rejoicing in your own ignorance in a way. It's like, no, I got it figured out and I'm right and they're wrong, and it's quite the opposite actually. In addition to having your wrong view, you're holding that you're correct and better than all the others. Okay, please say Sultrum. Down. Tulshu. Choksin. Gitawa. Sultrum is morality, Dang is and, Tulshik is asceticism, Chokzin, Gitawa is believing they're the best. This is to believe that mistaken spiritual hardships and morality are the best spiritual path in pursuit. You know, like if you read National Geographic, once a year you see the pictures of the guys in, I don't know where it is, India or somewhere over there, and in Persia, where and they got like hooks through their skin and they're being like dragged along, and they've got long knives and they're hitting themselves and cutting themselves up or whatever, hitting themselves with chains, or they're walking down the street, hundreds of them walking down the street bloodied, because this is their spiritual practice or something, right? So they're talking about these kinds of spiritual practices like causing yourself pain, beating yourself, starving yourself, things like that, right? It's a wrong view. It's just a backwards wrong view. So it's no help spiritually to intentionally hurt yourself or damage your body or your mind. So, and then we say, oh, well, I don't do that. That's some crazy Indian thing, right? But then, do we sit in meditation in a way which is painful, right? I mean, is it appropriate? Is it a wrong spiritual practice to say, oh, I have to meditate and I have to sit here and I have to be in pain because it's like somehow virtuous? Somehow being a spiritual person by forcing myself to sit in pain in meditation, right? No, it's not some kind of great spiritual practice. It's a wrong view. The point is not to cause yourself pain or suffering or anything else, right? So, Buddhism says, guess what? Not getting angry is the highest asceticism. Not getting angry when circumstances are right is the greatest hardship and the highest asceticism. So, ethics are great, but not ethics which are misguided or misinformed or just somehow crazy, which says, oh, I have to just make myself suffer for some spiritual purpose. That's not the point. So the body and the mind is a vehicle to reach nirvana, and we have to take care of it just like a car, right? It's not like do prostrations until we're in pain or until we can't walk or something, right? It's not like that. Okay, so Master Shantideva's, that's the 10. The 5 like that. Master Shantideva, he says, look, these 6 mental afflictions are the primary scourge of humanity, and we have to do something about them, right? He says all the suffering in life and all the suffering in the world come from these 10 mental afflictions mainly. They're the source of the problems. And he says, don't think you don't have mortal enemies. You have a mortal enemy, and these are your mortal enemy. Don't think that life's okay, the media focuses on Russia or China or terrorists and says, oh, they're the enemy, be careful of the enemy, They're not the enemy. These are your enemy. These are your true enemy, right? And we have to get into thinking that our own mental afflictions are our worst enemy. So, look, even if there's no such thing as karma, they make life miserable. Even just on a simple, plain old mundane level, they're the thing which make life miserable. So even just in an obvious way, that's the case. So Master Shantideva says, make war on them and annihilate them. Recognize them, seek them out, and destroy them. And don't stop until they're gone. Don't even allow them in your mind for an instant. So, all the stress of life, all the bad habits, all of the unhappiness, all the suffering of the world comes from these mental afflictions. And the main way to do that is to understand emptiness, obviously, and see emptiness. But along the way, we have to fight them and intelligently attack them and smash them. He says, look, you have to understand the severity of the problem. I'm going to just quickly, I know it's late, but I want to quickly just cover a couple of main points he makes in his reading because it's important. He says, look, mental afflictions are wrong to tolerate, right? He says they leave us powerless, they hurt us over infinite time, and it's wrong to make friends with them. He said, you're a slave and you don't even know it. He said, you're enslaved. Master Shantideva says, you don't even realize you're a slave. I mean, your mental afflictions make you powerless. Like, you're just a total slave to them, and you're going through life as a slave and you don't mind. So he says they live in our minds and they absolutely hurt us. And having patience with them is a disgrace. He says they're our foe, and we have to make great efforts to stop them and think over and over again about all the problems which they bring to us. He says, look, even if all the mighty beings in the universe rose up against us and attacked us all at once, they wouldn't be able to throw us into the hell realm. Your mental afflictions, in a moment, can throw you into hell realm. You can collect the karma in a moment from your mental afflictions to end up in a hell realm. They are your worst enemy, worse than every other being in the universe. And then you have to. This is a mortal enemy, and you have to smash it. He said, ordinary enemies don't live for a very long time. They're around for a year, or 10 years, or 20 years, and they're gone. This enemy has been with you for infinite time and will always be with you until you destroy it. They will never leave you. And if you only make occasional efforts, nothing will change. You have to make continuous efforts like a great river, so that it's a continuous and significant effort. He said, regular enemies, you treat them nicely, you flatter them, you give them some good things, and they reciprocate, and they're okay with you. He said, mental afflictions are not like that. He said, if you give them a moment's opportunity, if you humor them at all, they get stronger and they get worse. Not like other enemies, They become stronger and stronger and bring you more and more pain if you're friendly with them. You have to seek them out and destroy them completely. So he says they're a constant enemy which nourishes the entire mass of harmful things. And happiness is an impossibility as long as they're with you. So he said they're like guards in a prison. They're the guards holding you in prison. They're like butchers who are killing you. That's what they do. Your afflictions kill you, life after life. If you didn't have the afflictions, you wouldn't die. You'd be in paradise. So he said, look, even in everyday life, we experience someone who has harsh words for us, and we go way out of our way to make sure we deal with it, and make sure we address it, and make sure we take care of it and put it to rest. And that's just somebody having a few hard words for you. He says, I go way out of my way to ruin my enemy, even if I'm not getting any sleep, and I think about it constantly if someone is my enemy. What I can do to get them back, and how I can win, and how I can beat them. And he says, why wouldn't you do that with your afflictions, who are your worst enemy, most powerful enemy, who have been with you for so long? Why wouldn't you be relentless with them? He says, don't be discouraged by hardships. He says, when people go to war in an ordinary way, they think this person's my enemy, and I hate them, and I don't care if I get shot, I don't care if I get wounded, I'm going into battle, I'm fighting the enemy, and I'm going to beat them. We're going to win, and they're going to lose. That's just an ordinary war with somebody that we've just demonized in our mind because of whatever outer circumstances. If we're going to do that just with people who are going to die anyway, who are only going to be around for a short period of time, what the hell are you thinking about not doing it with your mental afflictions? Why wouldn't you be doing it with your mental afflictions? If you'll do it, if you'll take a bullet and suffer and die for an ordinary grudge or an ordinary enemy, why in the world wouldn't you do it with this infinite, powerful enemy who's out to destroy you and make you suffer constantly? It just makes no sense, he says. So he says there's nothing. He says these ordinary enemies are nothing compared to this enemy, which brings you infinite suffering for all time. And why wouldn't you bear any hardship to go after that enemy and fight that enemy? So you should take hundreds of suffering. You should take hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of sufferings on to defeat this enemy once and for all. Because it will never end, it will never stop, it will never go away. You will never have happiness until you defeat this enemy. So he says, look, people go to work, we make our living, we go spend however many hours a day, 8, 10 hours a day, Bearing what kind of hardships? We bear all these hardships to go to work and make a living. Discomfort, mistreatment, unpleasantness, and we do it all day, every day. For what? Just to put food in our stomach? Just to have some place to sleep where we're not cold, right? Or uncomfortable? He said, we'll spend 8 or 10 hours a day at work with all that crap, but we don't want to be inconvenienced, fighting our afflictions. It makes no sense. It's crazy. This is the worst possible mortal enemy who will never leave us alone, never leave, and we have so many ordinary things that we suffer for willingly. Why won't we suffer to defeat these afflictions? This enemy, which is the source of every unhappiness everywhere. So those are Master Shantideva's points. So I wanted to cover them quickly. And he says, look, it's hard work, and you're going to take some bullets and expect it. So what? Hang tough, right? Man up or woman up, whatever. He said, don't be discouraged, right? He says, don't be a wimp, right? The Buddhist job is to fight affliction. So, to go to work and then say, I don't have 20 minutes to meditate is just insane, To have all the hardships of work and then say, well, I'm not going to put the time in to fight my mental afflictions and meditate regularly and pay attention. It's irrational. It's crazy. So we have to put in time for the fight. Main antidote is to think about emptiness. So there's a price, and there's a cost, and we have to do whatever it takes to win. So, we're paying the price to stop every suffering on every level. And, Master Shantideva makes the point, don't make peace with your suffering. It will never leave you alone, and it never will go away. So, resolve to fight and resolve to utterly defeat this worst of enemies and to, have happiness for yourself and every other being forever as a result. Okay. See the holy being at your crown becoming brighter and smaller, golden ball of light entering your heart, blessing your heart. By the power of this goodness, may we quickly purify every affliction, put an end to every new affliction. May we be completely pure, quickly in this life, thereby ending every suffering everywhere, for every being.
Teaching.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you for coming. It's a great blessing to review the material and remember. And your holy beings blessing me and just playing along so that I can go back and look at these things again and make sure that I'm doing them and not being a spaced out non-practitioner.